everyone. My name is Deb Knichny. I'm from Minneapolis, St. Paul. I am a member of the Committee to Stop FBI Repression. And I just as well would like to thank everyone for being here today. It's tremendous, it's wonderful to be in a room filled with dedicated fighters for justice as we stand in solidarity with our sisters and brothers that are under attack by the FBI, and as we continue to wage a fierce, fierce battle to stop this FBI repression, to stop the grand jury investigation.
But I am happy, since I am from UE, to be able to say that we are the first national union that had a statement directly addressing the raids and the grand jury subpoenas and the investigation in general against people who were mainly organizing around political ideas and trying to express themselves. We are hopeful that additional national unions will follow. I think the work of this conference and the others across this country will probably contribute to additional national unions being brought on board. Our statement that we issued from our National General Executive Board a couple weeks ago is simply an extension of the resolution that we have had there for many years. And any of you who would like to see it, please go to the UE website and look under UE policy, and you'll see the statement that was passed at our last convention. It covers a whole range of civil liberties issues, including directly talking about improper use of grand juries and this kind of FBI misbehavior, etc. And knowing that in the end, workers and their organizations will be the ultimate targets of that.
I have no connection whatsoever to Israel or Palestine. I'm just Jewish. My family originated in Germany, and yet I have the right to travel to this country that I have no connection to for free. But I decided, instead of going on birthright, to actually go on a trip that would take me not just into Israel, but also into Palestine. By the end of December, 6 other Palestinian Americans and Palestine Solidarity activists were subpoenaed along with us. And it became clear that our government was trying to scare Americans from not only traveling to Palestine, but also from getting involved in Palestine solidarity work. We're here today because all 23 of us refused to testify. We're not going to allow our government to intimidate us from traveling to Israel and Palestine, and we're not going to allow our government to hinder the Palestine solidarity movement. I don't personally regret ever going on my trip, and I do hope to go back. I can firmly say that I'm not intimidated, and we are not intimidated. This case has made our movement stronger, as you can see. It's brought groups together that wouldn't normally be meeting. And like Mubarak has not intimidated the Egyptians, we are not going to allow our government or the FBI to intimidate us. Before my trip to Palestine, I was not really that involved politically, but my trip and being subpoenaed has encouraged me to get involved. And it's people like all of you who have come today to hear us speak, and the support that you give all of us that have been subpoenaed, the strength and the voice to really move forward and get more involved in our Palestine solidarity work. So I thank all of you for that. And I just
grand juries originally in this country were set up at the founding of this country to try and get the communities more involved in investigating crimes and try to get community input. And what's happened over the years, over the decades and centuries, it has evolved to be really just the tool of the prosecution. It's not supposed to be, but it is. It's just a tool of the prosecution. And for those of you who don't know, what it means that the grand jury is that it's made up of about 23 different people. If you go to testify at the grand jury, you cannot have your lawyer in there with you. You cannot have a lawyer. You cannot have a representative with you. You go in there alone. And the only evidence they hear, the only people they hear who speak about or speak to the grand jury are the prosecutors. So you cannot tell your side of the story. So it's all basically really one-sided, and it's secret. And then eventually the prosecution will ask them to issue what they call indictments. And so that's what people are up against. The secret proceedings. And this grand juries in this country have historically been used against people's movements?
One of the things that we learned when we took our trips to Palestine is that during the last year particularly, there's been an intensification of attack and intimidation not only on international activists, but Palestinian activists in the West Bank and Gaza, and also Palestinian activists within the State of Israel. It's no accident that that intimidation is very similar to what's happening here among all the organizations, and particularly the Solidarity Movement in the United States. Why? We're too successful. We're having too much of an impact. And we all know that Israel and the occupation is getting increasingly isolated, and the victory of the people in Egypt is one more example of the tide is turning. That was one more U.S. puppet who has dropped away, one more impediment to a free Palestine.
Most people are not going to, in the face of that kind of fear, stand up against it anyway and say, I'm going to take this anyway. I'm going to stand up for my rights. The vast majority of Americans would sort of back off in the face of that sort of threat. I'm just being frank here. What does that mean for the people in this room? That means that you have to work all the harder at getting your message out there and not giving up and seeing and understanding that all of these issues are tied together. That the rule book or the playbook that was being used during the Cold War era and against civil rights activists in the 60s is the same playbook that's being used today. And that's why you've got to keep going and keep standing up for these things on principle and keep speaking to the people whenever you do what you do. You're not speaking to each other. We're not speaking to, like-minded people. We're trying to get to the people who don't understand, but if they did understand, would side with us, right?
The period ahead is going to be challenging. There's going to be some serious storms, and we intend to push back to the greatest degree necessary and possible. Number one is that a number of very important anti-war mobilizations are coming up in the period ahead. A number of these mobilizations, including April 9th, have made the principal slogans, very important slogans, to stop the repression of anti-war and international solidarity activists. So all out for April 9th, and all out for the 19th mobilizations. That's point number one. Point number two is that we have every reason to believe at some point people are going to be dragged in front of the grand juries. And it's very important that every person knows that they will not stand alone. So what we're proposing is mobilizations to take place on the date that people are called in front of the grand juries, and to the greatest degree possible to build national actions on that day. It's an emergency. And the final point is this. We certainly don't know what the future is going to bring, but we certainly need to be prepared. And in the event, and the possibility actually, that indictments take place, we will call for immediate emergency mobilizations to take place as many places in the United States and internationally as possible. It is absolutely essential in that context that we push back against this repression and that it be as broad as possible. So what I'm proposing is emergency mobilizations taking place in the event of indictments, and that's the final point.
And the last point, the sister from Kalamazoo, the movement is spreading. Kalamazoo is here, as are cities from all across the Midwest, and we are not going to lose. In fact, we are going to win this struggle.
So the work has been just amazing, and it has to go on at this level. And finally, I just want to say to the sisters and brothers, if you want to stand to show who all in this room is being subpoenaed, please do it. I just want to say thank you to all of you for taking the stands that you are, refusing to be a part of this witch hunt, and guiding us forward in this precedent-setting moment in history. So thank you so much. Please.